Greetings, happy Sunday. Looking out on the water. Now, this video was an impromptu video from last week because I did the how your past lives are showing up in astrology and numerology for you, and I forgot to add the Saturn part. So I'm actually glad that I did this as a separate video for the simple fact I have a lot of information here about Saturn. So I'm just sitting out here this morning enjoying this beautiful Sunday sunshine, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about a planet that is extremely misunderstood and feared by most people when really that's not the case. There are other debilitating planets, such as I'll say planets that can cause pain in your life to a certain degree, such as Chiron and even Lilith if it's not well aspected to a certain degree. Whereas Saturn is more like that strict parent that says, okay, you want that bicycle over there? Okay, in order for you, I'm not going to give you that bicycle immediately, but in order for me to give you this bicycle, I'm going to withhold the bike until I see you improve in this area because you're a bit too overemphasized in this area. So Saturn really isn't a punisher. Saturn is a regulator. Saturn is like the governor planet, the police officer planet, the planet that keeps us from being a bit too much of something that we've either been in a past life as far as a character flaw or something that we've overemphasized, overdone to a certain degree. So with that particular information, I want you to keep this in mind. What would society be like if there was no government? What would society be like if someone did you wrong and there was no one to put the person in check who did something to you, and you could just get away with whatever you want? You can just steal whatever you want, do whatever you want, vandalize whatever you want. What would society be like? And let me bring this closer to home for you that have children. What would your children be like if there were no rules? What would a toddler's life be like if there were no child-proofing or safety bars or restrictions put on cabinets so that they don't go in them? So if you think about that, if you think about what life would be like, it would be chaos, it could be dangerous, and it can potentially harm a person or a child if there are no boundaries, no restrictions, no structure, no order. So with that particular information, Saturn is the planet that gives us, it child-proofs our life to a certain degree with our character, and it gives us structure and order. Now, another thing that Saturn does, it doesn't punish, it grants us what we want later in life, because Saturn is an old planet. It represents a planet of maturity and eldership. So a lot of things that we feel like are withheld tend to come later in life, after our 30s. Now I'm gonna keep an eye on this wasp because there's a wasp here on the porch. So if I get up and jump up, don't laugh at me. But anyway, Saturn is the regulator that is kind of like how would I say, a coach or a fitness trainer. Now, you know how they say in fitness, no pain, no gain. So you're exercising, you got this pressure and this weight on you, but it's also building muscle mass and it's building the body you want. So that's who Saturn is, a governor, a regulator, a protective parent that child-proofs of a home so that a child can be safe, but not in prison, just safe. Once again, a motivational coach to get us to where we need to be, because without it, what will be the purpose of coming to the earth realm? I tend to, and a lot of people tend to think of the earth realm kind of like Saturn. Saturn was even once considered a sun to a certain degree because there is so much heavy karmic energy. It's not an easy planet. It's not a vacation planet. I always tell people who get the astrocartography reports from me, you don't want to take a vacation too much on a Saturn planet. That's more of a place to go if you're going to like a business workshop or something serious, to be more responsible. It's not the most fun, jovial energy like Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, that type of thing. So let's get into what I have for you. Saturn is also a generational planet. So a person born within a year to about a year and a half from you is going to be in your Saturn sector. That does not mean that they are your soul group member. I want you to think of Saturn being a generational planet. Like, say for instance, when you and all of the people that were born within a year and a half you were born, you can consider it like you all were on a school bus on the way from the spirit world, and you all decided to incarnate for these particular lessons. So imagine in the spirit world, this is only metaphorical, not literal. Imagine them saying, okay, so you want a lesson in not being so selfish. Everybody who wants a lesson in not being so selfish, or everybody who wants a lesson in not being so self-sacrificing, get on this bus. We're going this way for this year. So just like on public transportation, you don't know everybody on that bus, but everybody's going, and you're all on the same bus, but you're not all related. So once again, Saturn is a generational sort of energy, so those around you will be able to relate. But what personalizes your Saturn experience is the house it's in. And in order for you to know the house that your Saturn placement is in, you need to know the time of your birth. Another thing that I would also suggest is, don't just look at your Western chart, look at your Eastern or Vedic chart as well, because you will find that there are elements that resonate from both charts, believe it or not. I'm telling you, in Western astrology, my Saturn is in Libra. In Eastern astrology, my Saturn is in Capricorn, and I did not realize, like, dang, I can relate to both to a certain degree, and you may find that you will do the same. And also, as I examine some celebrities who share my Saturn in Libra, being born my birth year, theirs relates to the Vedic chart as well, along with the Western chart. So keeping that particular thing in mind. Now let's tie this into how Saturn relates to past life energy. Once again, in a past life, you may have had a character flaw, or not necessarily a character flaw, just a thing in general that you did that was, you did it too much. You were too heavy on that. So once again, Saturn is that planet of moderation that will regulate and kind of pull you back from overdoing that thing by restricting or withholding or limiting your access and your character to fully express it the way you want to, in order to learn some lesson that you need to learn for your soul to evolve on this journey. So Saturn represents in this life past life fine-tuning and an obstacle course we must overcome in order to excel in that area in our life. So if you look at what area and what house your Saturn is placed in, that will tell you a lot about how you were in a past life, how you may have treated yourself, how you may have treated other people, or things that you may have done or underdone to a certain degree. So this is just an extra layer of information. If you've never done a past life regression, or you've tried past life regression but you found that you could not really regress successfully, maybe you're too stuck in your rational left brain, or maybe it's just not in your budget at the time to do a past life regression or a Akashic record report, then you can simply look at these clues to tell you where you went wrong or where you overemphasized a certain thing in the past. So keeping that particular thing in mind, I'm working from my notes. Let me make sure I'm on point with that. So Saturn in general teaches patience, enduring, and applying extra effort and careful consideration to the area that it touches our lives. It causes maturity and a strong dose of a reality check. It can give us an ego death or an ego boost later on in life, but it depends on how we develop in our character. If we get to a certain age and we still have not yet developed in our character in a certain manner, then we may never see the opportunity of the gifts of Saturn if we don't change our ways. So keeping that particular thing in mind, Saturn is a planet of conditions. Jupiter tends to be the planet that grants and so-called, I don't like to say blesses, because it's a planet, it's not creator, even though everything is creator, technically speaking. Jupiter will grant you gifts whether you deserve them or not, whereas Saturn will give it to you once you've earned it. So Saturn makes you earn your keep so that you can keep it longer and appreciate the gift. So with that also, Saturn is a planet of consequence, not punishment. Once again, it's not here to punish us, it's here to show us that if we throw a pebble out into the water, it will make a ripple into the pond. Every cause has an effect. A lot of people don't like to talk about karma and what you put out, it comes back to you. If you don't believe in karma, that's fine. It's just a matter of divine balance, or ma'at, in creation and in the universe. So what we do, whatever action we take has a reaction. So it's the planet of consequences, once again, not punishment. Saturn is what makes the earth plane like a gym, once again. Just like weight training, and all of that good stuff in order to build our character muscles and our soul muscles and our soul journey, if you will. Saturn is also, once again, like that play fence that keeps us safe and protected from ourselves. Now, keep in mind, one thing I want to say that a lot of people won't mention is everything that's outside of you, from the sun, the sky, the water, everything that's outside of you is within you. So Saturn is not just some outside deity planet or something that's just watching every little thing you do. No, Saturn is within you. Just like our nervous system, our body, our gut, everything has its own regulatory system within us. The Saturn is within you. The planets are within you, and it gives you a natural regulation in conjunction with your higher self and your destiny and why you want to be here. So I would consider it a form of Oreo Day, a connection with the higher self, with our destiny in this lifetime more than anything else, in this illusion we call reality in the third and fifth dimension. So let's see, I'm gonna go through the symptoms of how Saturn comes out in your life. I'm gonna go through also the gifts that Saturn grants. Let's see. Just making sure I'm on point with the notes. All right. So we're going to get started now, and this will be time stamped. So some of the symptoms or the character flaws that you had in a past life are going to be mentioned in this particular part of the video. If you have Saturn in Aries, it is quite possible, this is your clue, in a past life you could have been reckless or impulsive in some sort of way. You could have been argumentative or addicted to drama, or always found yourself attracting drama to a certain degree. You may not have intentionally done, but you could have been possibly inconsiderate of other people in a past life and overly competitive in a past life. So you find yourself with Saturn in Aries because Saturn is restricting you and regulating you, because there could have been an overemphasis in Aries traits, Mars-like traits, competition, lack of anger management, lack of impulse control, and all of that good stuff. So Saturn is here to regulate that area of your life based on past life, or just to regulate the character of this life. Now, if you have Saturn in Taurus, in a past life, you could have had the character flaw of maybe being a bit too greedy. Maybe you were a hoarder. Maybe you held on to things when you could have given them to someone else that you're not using. You could have been miserly or overly possessive to a certain degree, overly focused on material things that you can hold in your hand rather than just the spiritual world. So Saturn will regulate you in the area of Taurus, or your second house energy, in order for you to appreciate the money that comes through your hand, the property, the houses, the material things that come your way. Also with Saturn and Taurus, it can deal with eating regulation, eating addiction, food addiction, and things such as that. And just, once again, greed, overdoing something, especially dealing with food. By the way, I want to go back to say that Saturn and Aries, that will be related to first house energy to a certain degree. But your Saturn may not be in that house. I'm just saying Aries is first house energy. Moving forward, if you have Saturn in Gemini, in a past life, it's quite possible you could have been a gossip. You could have over-sensationalized the truth to a certain degree. There could have been a karmic conflict with siblings. Or you could have been an only child in some sort of capacity and didn't get enough interaction that you needed with a sibling dynamic or with peers. You may not have been serious enough about things. There could have been an element of immaturity or double-mindedness to a certain degree if you have Saturn in Gemini. If you have Saturn in Cancer in a past life, you could have been overly doting, too motherly or too paternal, just smothering your children to a certain degree, or your family. Everything was all about family. Or you could have allowed yourself to be held back by your mother or your father, your family dynamic, your home life, that fourth house energy. You could have been a mama's boy, or as a woman, you could have let your mother rule your whole world. Now, also, in a past life, it's quite possible you could have been a cold, uncaring, irresponsible mother to a certain degree that didn't show love and affection, didn't care about your family, or either the type of person that you'd sacrifice your mother or sell her for a dime if you had to for a gain, because the opposite of Cancer is Capricorn. So it just depends. In a past life, if you are Saturn in Leo, it is quite possible that you could have had. Maybe you had too many children that you weren't taking care of them to a certain degree. Or maybe you squandered your talents or gifts. Maybe you abused people who were serving you, or took servants for granted. Or could have been in a narcissistic relationship dynamic. Or a bit too egotistical and hoarded the spotlight too much. Didn't want to share the spotlight. You wanted to always be the lead singer and all this type of stuff. In a past life, if you are Saturn in Virgo, it is quite possible that you could have exploited or been in general, you could have been exploited for what you could do for people. People could have used you for you being useful. You're such a good cook, you're such a good cleaner, you're such a good maid, you're such a good employee, and you could have allowed them to use you so much to where there was an overemphasis in work to where you neglected other areas of your life, including your 7th house romantic relationships, your 4th house energy of family. You could have just neglected other areas, including neglecting yourself. And you may not have taken good care of your health in a past life. You could have suffered with health challenges, but often those past life health challenges could have been self-inflicted in some sort of way due to your choices in what you eat, or lack of exercise, whatever it is. So with that Virgo energy, Saturn in Virgo, you could have also been judgmental, too analytical to a point of obsession, and too much of a perfectionist. Nothing may have ever been good enough for you, not easily impressed, and all that energy. If you are a Saturn in Libra, in a past life, you might have been too codependent to a spouse, lover, or soulmate, or of too invested into group think and being accepted by the group to a certain degree. Too nice to the point of being a doormat. Too much focus on beauty, appearance, and shallow things. Also, there could have been an injustice that happened to you in love, or you could have been a heartbreaker yourself in a past life. So you have Saturn in Libra. If you have Saturn and Scorpio in a past life, it is quite possible that you may have been a little bit too promiscuous, or too driven by power and sex, too manipulative, or you could have gotten by on your seductive wiles, or able to hypnotize others, or could have did witchcraft, like revenge witchcraft or dominating witchcraft on somebody. You could have even killed someone, because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, which is death and transformation. And you could have been very ruthless in a past life, kind of like a mob boss, like a mafia type person. And too much on the dark side of life to a certain degree with Saturn and Scorpio. So Saturn comes to regulate that and bring you to the light a little bit and regulate those mob boss-like tendencies if you have them. If you have Saturn and Sagittarius, it is quite possible that in a past life you could have been too much of a rolling stone, a poor righteous teacher, guru type of energy, more accepting of different cultures and foreigners, rather than appreciating your own culture. Too much emphasis on being the teacher and once again, trying to be the master of things rather than just taking time to be a student of life, thinking that you are a know-it-all to a certain degree, and maybe even feeling superior to others based on what you know. And there also could have been too much emphasis on your religion or faith in a past life. If you are Saturn in Capricorn, it is quite possible that in a past life you could have had too much emphasis on being bougie, conservative, and status conscious. There could have been too much emphasis on business and your public image while neglecting and being cold to family and loved ones. You could have been emotionally unavailable to people in your IC, in your personal life. Or you could have been stuck in a toxic relationship for status reasons. Moving forward, if you are Saturn in Aquarius, in a past life, you may have been a bit too rebellious. Your uniqueness or eccentricities could have been offensive to some, or just a bit too much. A bit too unconventional to where it was disturbing to other people, too out the box, too open-minded, too eccentric with no boundaries, too detached, if you can be too eccentric. I don't know. When I say too eccentric, let me give you an example of being too eccentric. Say for instance, if you have a perversion, like a strange perversion, and you go to a movie theater and you're around children and you are doing things to yourself because you have a perversion and you're doing things in the movie theater, that's what I mean by too eccentric. Or you're doing things to where it's not socially acceptable, it's not considered family friendly or too safe. That's what I mean by too eccentric. I don't mean by you like to wear pink socks and blue eyeglasses. I don't mean that. I mean like perversions and things such as that. So with that Saturn Aquarius energy, there could have also been too much detachment, too much focus on the latest innovative trendy ideas. So you could have been like an Elon Musk type person in the past, even though technology wasn't advanced as it is now. In the past, you could have been like that type of person, like the person like the Wright brothers, trying to invent new things and show people how to fly, that Nikola Tesla sort of energy. And you could have come back with Saturn and Aquarius because it's that Tower of Babel energy. So there needs to be some sort of regulation on what you did in a past life. Because it's okay to be innovative, inventive, eccentric, and all that stuff, but there's a rule, there's a boundary to everything. With all things, moderation is good and balance is good. So there was too much of an imbalance and overemphasis in Uranus Aquarian-like traits. So that's why you get Saturn in Aquarius. Now, in a past life, if you are Saturn in Pisces, it is quite possible that you could have been too focused on escapism, trying to escape reality, either via addictions, alcoholism, drugs, just always caught in a fantasy or living a lie. You could have been too focused on the esoteric spiritual world, delusional. Also, there could have been some mental health crisis to where, I would say psychosis, quite possibly in a past life, like talking to people that aren't there in a padded cell, that type of thing, or too easily exploited, or there wasn't enough structure in your identity. You could have been a martyr. You could have had blind faith and allowed people to take advantage of you because you're blind faith, kind of like that Jim Jones dynamic where he made all the people drink the Kool-Aid and they died in Guyana, that type of energy. And you could have believed everything that everyone told you. You could have been too naive, too gullible to a certain degree. So there was an overemphasis in those particular energies, quite possibly. So you've come to balance that out in this life. So Saturn happens to all of us for a reason. And if we incarnate, just like we all have a head, just like we all have ancestors, we all have a Saturn placement. So now with let's go into some of the symptoms that how Saturn shows up in our life in this time, in this lifetime. So if you have Saturn in Aries, Saturn is debilitated in Aries. So you could have, you may come off as selfish or self-absorbed, or you come across people that are selfish or self-absorbed to kind of mirror how you were in a past life, so you can see how you treated people, to kind of get a dose of your own medicine. Also with Saturn in Aries, it may show up as an identity crisis in this life. Not able to be impulsive and adventurous the way you really want to. You feel like something's holding you back from being as impulsive and moving as fast as you want to. It seems like something's always in your way or slowing you down. Kind of like if you're late and you're driving and somebody's driving slow in front of you, it feels like life is just like you're on the road and something's holding you back from going as fast as you want to go in life and moving as fast as you want to go. Or you could have harsh lessons that deal with impulse control, anger management, sexual choices like one night stands, sort of Mars energy, speeding in travel, overly sexually aggressive, quite possibly. This is the position of the speed limit, and also having problems and struggling, having an ego death because you're not able to be the first. That type of energy, or losing to a competitor that's just as formidable or just as strong and competent as you. That could be an ego death for you in this lifetime. That's Saturn teaching you something about regulation, sharing, and all that good stuff. Also, you could have dealt with a bully or been a bully to a certain degree, but usually it's having to deal with or come across a bully. Or you could be a bully that finally gets your butt whoops. You meet your match, that type of thing. There could have been early setbacks as well during your baby years. Also, there could have been a head injury, and also things dealing with mental health, with the mind and the eyesight, things such as that, dealing with the head. Now, your symptoms as a Saturn in Taurus are quite possibly in this life, they show up as with Saturn being more compatible with Taurus energy, you could be a bit more easy. Saturn is a bit more easier to deal with the Saturn and Taurus placement. So you could be like the energy of the child at the store. Like, say for instance, if you have Saturn and Taurus, it could be like the energy where a child is with his parent at the store, and the child says, "Can I have that toy? Can I have that candy?" And the parent says, "No, you can't have that candy. No, you can't have that toy," which are material things. So you may feel like every time you want a material thing, it feels like life is saying, "No, you can't have that." I want that car. No, you can't have that. I want that house. No, you can't have that. I want that outfit. No, you can't have that. So you may be dealing with that in your consciousness to where you feel like things that you want that are material, it feels like they're being withheld from you in some type of way. Or a property. I want that house, and then you don't get approved for it. Somebody takes it. Or you want that particular hotel room suite and somebody's already booked it. That type of thing, which can be very triggering for you with Saturn in Taurus. Also, you could have either had too much stability to the point of boredom and feeling like you're going to lose your mind, being stuck in a place you want to get out, like maybe being stuck in a small town and you want to move, but it doesn't seem possible. Or you may have had a lack of stability to a certain degree to where you are always moving, like that transient 8th house energy, and not able to really have a place that you can call home. So that's it. Yeah, that's it as far as the symptoms of Saturn in Taurus. It's that second house sort of energy. Also, there could have been issues with the throat, the throat chakra, issues with speaking up, feeling repressed, like you couldn't say everything that you wanted to say to a certain degree. Now, moving forward, the symptoms in this life with Saturn and Gemini quite possibly could have showed up, especially in childhood, as speech impediments, sibling rivalry issues, or maybe not having a sibling, or losing a sibling, or having siblings across town you didn't even know were there. You could have dealt with a lot of frenemies, people who were your friend, but behind your back they stab you in your back. Difficult, strict school teachers, didn't get a chance to have fun and be playful and silly enough. Or playful experience could have been painful and sobering, such as insults that hurt your feelings or triggered you, and you're still trying to get over it now as an adult to a certain degree. Lessons come from dealing with friends, siblings, hobby, fun, elementary and middle school life, and also dealing with the concept of what's the consequences of telling lies or being lied to about something. It can also deal with the pain that gossip can cause and the chaos that gossip can cause. And also, you may have not been able, just like the Taurus energy, throat chakra, you may have been wanting to verbally express yourself, but it didn't come out the right way, or it was misunderstood quite possibly. Or feeling like what you want to say is censored. You can't say everything you want to say like you want to say it. And once again, this Saturn and Gemini energy can deal with insulting jokes and things like that, or playing pranks on people and ends up causing a painful consequence. So you have to be careful with jokes and things like that, because it can end up in a bad way. Sometimes pranks and things like that can go awfully wrong. So you want to be careful with that type of energy with Saturn in Gemini. Moving forward, the symptoms of Saturn in Cancer in this life could show up as maybe you were born into a broken home, maybe you were in foster care or estranged from your family, and definitely karmic issues with the mother in some sort of way. Maybe she withheld emotions, emotionally unavailable to a certain degree, always focused on something else, putting other people before you, withholding her love, difficult to say, and dealing with people where they're not able to say I love you easily, or you can't tell people you love them easily. Once again, mommy issues, intuitive blocks, difficulty with right brain relaxation for some people, or feeling like you don't belong to your family, like you just feel like either held back from your family, or like you don't fit into your family dynamic. Like how was I born into this family? That type of energy with Saturn and Cancer, or also that deals with, once again, 4th house energy. Now, with Saturn in Leo, you could have some issues with your fertility, or if you're a guy, maybe issues with your virility, erectile dysfunction, low sperm count, that type of thing. So issues with conceiving either a human child or conceiving a project. Maybe you want to write a book, but you just never seem to get time to write that book or produce that book, that play, that project, and things like that. Whatever it is that cultivates your natural talents, you may have felt like you were held back from fully being able to do that. Also, maybe you felt like there was something always holding you back from joy. Like as soon as you're happy, something snatches away that joy. And you find joy to be temporary and fleeting. Like you just get a taste, like a little ski taste on the tongue, but you don't get to just fully digest joy the way you really want to. Also, in your life, there could be lessons that deal with pride, ego, narcissism, feeling restricted once again in expressing what you really want to do. Lessons that come through drama, pain that comes from lack of realized creative projects, pain that comes from your children. Maybe your children hate you to a certain degree, and all of that stuff, and ego deaths with the Saturn in Leo. With the Saturn in Virgo, it is quite possible that your symptoms show up in this life with Saturn's influence as critical people judging you. Feeling like you're an outcast, feeling like whatever you do, how hard you work is just not good enough. People don't give you the praise that you think you deserve. No reward for your work or efforts. Or maybe you don't get paid as much as you should for the work that you are doing. You're overworked, underpaid type of thing, and you feel like you labor in vain. You also could be considered illegitimate in the work field that you do. So there are lessons on imperfections. Also, there could be limits to marriage to a certain degree. Let's see. Yeah. Or you may feel like people treat you like a child, or like they're condescending to you, or that they patronize you to a certain degree with Saturn in Virgo. Moving forward, Saturn in Libra. There could be restrictions in romantic love. Usually before your first Saturn return, those relationships might not last, and if they do last, the dynamic will definitely change by your 30s. So if you all hang in there, it may not be what it used to be, or the hopes of romantic, twin flame, sexual, beautiful union, that 7th house energy, you feel like it's repressed from you and taken away. So strict restrictions in romantic love. Boring, joyless, strict marriage that doesn't run smoothly. It's like a 2 of Cups reversed energy in tarot. Don't see eye to eye. Incompatible mate. Not with your soulmate, more with a karmic. Late marriage in the late 30s usually. Karmic marriage. Soulmate feels like a cellmate if you are with a soulmate. Kindness is taken for weakness. Hold on one second. You may not be able to get along in your romantic relationships, arguing in the relationships, or getting dumped by somebody you really like, or it seems like you like people, they don't like you as much, and vice versa. They like you, you don't like them as much, that type of thing when you do meet people. Controlling relationships, all of that good stuff. Or you could just feel tuned out of the relationship. Saturn in Libra is also the placement for Beyonce and those born in my year and stuff like that. So there's a dynamic to it. Now, Saturn is exalted in Libra, but when it comes to relationships, Saturn and Libra, it kind of puts a coldness and a seriousness to the relationship. So when you do finally get rewarded with a relationship, it can last longer, but it's not going to be that puppy love teenage type of thing. Moving forward, if you have Saturn and Scorpio, the symptoms of Saturn and Scorpio could be problems during puberty, problems with sexual repression, promiscuity, or having to have sex against your will. It could be problems with problems that deal with paying for sex or getting paid to have sex, like prostitution and things such as that. Other people's money, 8th house energy. Tough lessons dealing with death and change. Could also mean, once again, somebody trying to get sex from you against your will, overpowering you, dominating you in the area of sex, because Pluto is a planet of power and domination and also sex and death. So that type of thing. Also, there could be issues with STDs and thoughts of deleting yourself, that type of thing. So you want to guard against that particular energy and overcome it. So knowledge is power. To know this, it gives you the empowerment to prevent and improve your lot in life with that energy. Moving forward, if you have Saturn and Sagittarius, you could have problems in college or with professors or with authority in the area of education, or your priests, pastors, religions, and all this type of stuff, spirituality. There could be problems with your spiritual godparents and gurus and things like that. Problems with people from different foreign cultures. Restrictions in international travel or cultural expression. Maybe you have trouble getting your visa or your passport approved, or you want to move to another country but something's holding you back from doing it. You may be too pessimistic. You may have trouble thinking outside the box. You could have a scarcity mindset. Let's see, you could have gambling problems. You may not be so lucky in gambling with Saturn and Sagittarius. Also problems with taking risks. There could be problems, like if you do take a risk, you want to take the risk, but it ends up making a fool out of you if you take the risk. Sometimes there can be painful lessons dealing with gambling and risk taking, and once again, higher education, foreign exchange, and all of that good stuff. And lessons on being too open and people, Yeah, you could be too open. There could be painful lessons dealing with people who are outside of your family or comfort zone. There could also be church hurt, painful experiences in religion and spirituality, in the temple, the churches, the mosque. You may have a painful experience with that and find yourself either changing religions due to disappointment, and you keep finding this disappointment over and over again with your spiritual leaders and people like that that you put your faith in. You could also be triggered by people. You feel like, I know this stuff. Like, I'm a doctor, and then they have all these so-called YouTube experts, and they're getting all the praise and attention, and I'm not getting the attention for being the expert I am. So that could trigger you to a certain degree. So with that particular energy, it's later on in life things improve for you, and then the door is open for you to have that opportunity. Hold on one second. Take a look at the water. All right, I am back. Ooh, that heat is bearing down on me. So, moving forward, if you have Saturn in Capricorn, some of the symptoms of Saturn in Capricorn could be restrictions and obstacles and lessons with dealing with social climbing, feeling like you can't go as high as you want to, daddy issues, a strict or cold, unavailable, absent father to a certain degree, strict authorities, feeling like there's a limit to your sky when it comes to meeting your goals and social aspirations, feeling like a caged bird, looked over to get the promotion that you want to get, rejected from a bougie society or social group, your lessons come from dealing with snooty associations and how they treat people, lessons in being too conservative with issues with people who you put on a pedestal. So people who you admire and you want to be like, and you feel like they can take you where you want to go socially, they may cause some sort of trigger or pain in your life to a certain degree, or feeling like they're withholding something from you and that the key to your success is in their hands and they're dangling and they're not giving it to you. All of that type of energy. Issues with older people, with elders, feeling judged by them to a certain degree. Exploitation from authorities. Temptation to do what's wrong, being offered to sell your integrity in some sort of way. That's the Saturn and Capricorn symptoms, in general. Once again, it also depends on the house placement as well as how it gets more detailed. If you have Saturn in Aquarius, some of the symptoms of Saturn in Aquarius could be issues in dealing with friendships, exes, your uniqueness, always being put in the friend zone by people you want to be romantic with, turning issues and turning platonic relationships once again to romantic, and turning romantic relationships platonic. Like, it could be a lot of people, they want to be in a romantic relationship with you, but you'd rather be friends with them, all that vice versa energy. Because, you know, Aquarius, they love to be friends with their exes quite often. So it's that type of dynamic. Your innovative ideas could be rejected. You could be holding on to outdated beliefs, so you're surrounded by people that are, you know, they're in outdated beliefs and mindsets, and they're too into superficial things when it's time for society to move forward. I hope you understand what I mean. So once again, you may feel like you're the most unique person in the group, in your family, around you, and you have these revolutionary, innovative ideas, and you feel like you're being held back by a bunch of people who are just too stuck in the old ways and the old traditions that are no longer working. That's what I'm trying to say. There could be issues with you wanting to fight social reform, but feeling like you're held back from doing that. Intellectual property theft issues, rejection because you're eccentric, like the type of kid that say, nobody wants to play with me, they think I'm too different, or they think I'm too weird, or issues also with how you want to express your gender. You could feel like you were discriminated against for either being non-binary, all of that type of stuff. So all those type of issues go in that particular realm of the Saturn in Aquarius or 11th house energy. Rejection from groups, all of that type of stuff. You could all that type of stuff. You could stick out like a sore thumb. Issues, feeling persecuted for telling the true facts to the underdog. Like, you tell the truth and the authorities are upset with you for telling the truth. All that type of stuff. Once again, social outcast. And it's like the more you care about fitting in, the crueler your peers can be to you, or those elders that are trying to hold you back from expressing innovative ideas. Being misunderstood for your uniqueness. All of that is the Saturn and Aquarius energy. Now, moving forward, Saturn and Pisces symptoms. You may have sleep disturbances. There's a harsh reality, like you wake up and smell the coffee. You get a bunch of rude awakenings all the time. Just when you think stuff is wonderful, great, and grand, and it fits your ideal fantasy, here comes the coffees put into your face, just showing you the true reality of things, to where you're forced to face the so-called reality of what's going on in your life. Your fantasies are always constantly being shattered. Lessons dealing with lies, delusion, and the truth. Lessons that come through suffering. Lessons that come through being downtrodden, or dealing with downtrodden, suffering people. Lessons, painful lessons dealing with your spiritual beliefs and things that you put your trust in. Lessons dealing with the homeless and the derelict. Lessons in addiction and paranormal activities, and tapping into the subconscious. That's Saturn, Pisces symptoms to scratch the surface. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. I'm sweating out here now that sun is coming out. It's getting hot out here. I'm almost done. So let's talk about how Saturn shows up in the houses. Saturn in the first house is, it can deal with the self-restraint, self-discipline, feeling responsible for others, too much authoritarian parents or teachers and things such as that. Especially dealing with people that are older than you, and also issues with the appearance. Saturn in the second house, difficulties in nursing as a baby, lack of home life, transient energy, not having enough food and enough quality of material things in your life. Maybe you had an environment to where it wasn't safe, like a bad apartment where there was asbestos, or what's that stuff, the lead in the house, just lack of quality of material. The roof over your head could have been dangerous to a certain degree. Saturn in the third house, once again, speech impediments, problems with siblings, harder to succeed and learn, issues with attention deficit, such as ADHD and stuff. Saturn in the fourth house, issues with the mothers, once again, with feminine energy, with family dynamics, feeling like you're at home, feeling like you have a house, but it doesn't feel comfortable, it doesn't feel cozy to you. There's a lack of warmth in the home dynamic. Saturn in the fifth house, fertility issues, creative blocks, challenge with your reputation and getting noticed for your talents and things such as that. Ego blows, issues with fatherhood. Let's see. Saturn in the sixth house, health issues, hypochondriac, work and performance restrictions, overly diligent, always work, no play. Always working, no play. Saturn in the seventh house, late marriage, a strict husband, or a strict wife, strict serious spouse, older spouse, unhappy marriage. Saturn in the eighth house, blocked intuition, repressed sexuality. It makes you humble, and also having to be careful and guarding against attack sexually. But it also grants long life to a certain degree. Saturn in the ninth house, issues with college, foreigners, not being able to see the big picture, a pessimist. Let's see, Saturn in the 10th house, always aware of the rules, the tattletale, works in law, government quite possibly, setbacks with social climbing, problems with material success, father issues, discards family if they have to for success. Hold on one second. Okay. Saturn in the 11th house. You're quite possibly the oldest child. There could be estrangement from siblings, missing sibling, estrangement from the oldest sibling if you're not the oldest. Limited social connections and trust issues. Let's see, Saturn in the 12th house. Once again, sleep disturbances, hidden enemies at work, and things such as that. Let's see, I hope I covered them all. I hope I didn't miss any. Yeah, I think that's it with the house energy. So of course, in summary, Saturn in first house is Aries, second house is Taurus, third house Gemini, fourth house Cancer, fifth house Leo, sixth house Virgo, seventh house Libra, eighth house Scorpio, ninth house Sagittarius, 10th house Capricorn, 11th house Aquarius, 12th house Pisces. In summary, just in case you don't know. Alrighty, so the gifts of Saturn. Now it's withheld all this stuff from you. So the character development that it can grant you in general, this is a very surface scratching summary, is if you're Saturn and Aries, when you get older in life, you may find yourself being more strategic rather than just impulsive, and you're more charismatic because you take your time to do things, but you still have that drive to move forward and shine and be innovative and bold. If you have Saturn and Taurus later in life or with maturity, you begin to appreciate the value of things. You're more grateful for the material things you get, and you're less hoarding with it. You have less attachment to it, and you're more like able to deal with if something is taken from you. So you're able to let go in order to allow better material things to come in. If you have Saturn and Gemini, you may be a better communicator once you get older. There could be cultivation of gifts, hobbies, and interests. If you're Saturn and Cancer, when you get older later in life, you may be more protective of a group of people that you consider like a family that you created. And also you're a good leader for the most part if you develop your character. If you're Saturn and Leo, the gifts of Saturn and Leo is overcoming issues with conceiving a child, quite possibly, or overcoming issues in conceiving a project and letting it be fully successful and getting the just due and the notoriety that it deserves. Yet you're more humble, but still grand at the same time. If you're Saturn and Virgo, you may become more tolerant of others as you get older in life, accepting that nothing will ever be perfect. Also, you might be more health conscious, and there could be more of a work-life balance with Saturn and Virgo later on in life. If you have Saturn and Libra, you may become more reciprocal in your marriage, not just being the total giver or the total taker, but reciprocity. And you're also more fair with people. You have a strong sense of justice. You don't like cheating people. Longer lasting relationships, even if they're dull and boring, they tend to last longer, but with a purpose with Saturn and Libra if you want them to. Or else you're just happy being single if you want to with Saturn and Libra, and you get older. You're like, you know what, forget it. I just want to do me. With Saturn and Scorpio, you may, as you get older in life, you may have a balanced mindset about sexual expression. You may have healed and overcome issues dealing with people taking sex from you against your will, things dealing with human trafficking and all of that stuff. And you may become an advocate for those who have been violated or exploited by sex and things such as that. Also, you may become a criminal investigator that deals with things that have happened to people that were deleted, if you know what I mean, like that Law and Order sort of thing. Helping people solve a murder case, all that type of stuff. With Saturn and Sagittarius, later in life, you may be the older person, the senior citizen on the cruise, dancing and finally getting to have a good time, finally getting to travel. Now that all your children are grown and you've retired, you've done all you want to do, now you're that person on the vacation having a good time. Enjoyable vacations later in life, more open-mindedness, more interactions with different cultures. You're more willing to try Thai food or some sort of exotic food, whereas you may have been held back from being able to do that earlier in life. You may even decide to go back to school later. Even if you did finish college, you may go back to school and get certified for something that you really want to work in. Very loud boat in the background. Good morning. Let's see. And you master your craft later in life. With Saturn and Capricorn later in life, you finally get the social status that you feel like you deserve. You're able to attain it and kind of become accepted and considered legitimate in your social climbing groups. And you finally get the respect you deserve as you develop your character. If you have Saturn in Aquarius, you may find that you have better friendships and you're better, you incorporate into groups a little better. You fit in a little more. And when I say fit in, I don't mean like compromising yourself or your values, but you're not as threatening to the group to a certain degree. So your uniqueness and your inventions are praised later on in life, or you're actually the leader and then people follow behind you rather than you trying to fit into what someone else is trying to do. If you have Saturn in Pisces, you may find yourself later in life being more imaginative with a balanced dose of reality, and also giving and receiving without self-sacrificing. You can finally master that. So I hope that this resonates and makes sense. Let's see, we've been on here for almost 50 minutes. So those are the lessons of Saturn. So the summary is Saturn is not here to punish you. Saturn is here to regulate you. And with that being said, I'll end it at that. Once again, it's getting hot out here. Want to see my view? What a beautiful view this morning. Turn on the camera. Isn't this gorgeous, y'all? All right, so Saturn rewards after a pressing process, because a coal cannot be made into a diamond without pressure. So Saturn has come to turn you from a coal into a diamond. Allow it to process you as you work on character, iwapele, and being balanced in this life, because moderation is key in the third, fifth dimension. Peace.